here with Podge. How's it going, Podge?
It's going good. Hello.
Glad you could join us today. Yeah, if we could just get right into it. If you want to just start off introducing yourself and saying who you are and what kind of work you do.
I am Podge or Adam. Currently, I'm working on a web show, indie animation called Big Shot and Friends. I also make music videos, visuals for brands and stuff like that. Got started off with music and over time pivoted towards focusing on animation, and that's how I've ended up here today.
How would you describe your style when it comes to animation?
I guess like if we are going by just sort of like more technical terms, it's like super pastel, super simple, cute, I guess you could say. I've had a lot of people say that it looks very video game-esque, which is because when I first came up with the idea for the show, it originally started off as a video game idea, but I didn't have the resources or the knowledge to develop a video game. So I decided to make a video, like a cutscene for a fake video game, and it came from that. So originally it was very like almost like a visual novel where you've got like a character standing there and then you've got a text box underneath it. So it's a lot of like very like flat scenes, sort of like almost like Takashi Murakami inspired by like the whole like super flat movement that he had going on.
Yeah.
But like visual inspiration wise, I mean, you can probably see some of the stuff in the background. I'm really inspired by like Kyoto animation shows, Lucky Star, early moe anime, and then we've got like the obvious ones like the Cal Art shows, Adventure Time, regular
Yeah.
show. Also some like more left field stuff. Like I really like the designs of like Tamagotchis, Pokemon, like little creatures and stuff like that. But yeah, that's how I'd describe my style.
Cool. Yeah, I've obviously been following you for a bit now, so I've like seen some of your Instagram posts mostly, but yeah, last couple days I've been on your YouTube channel watching through a bunch of your episodes. You post some pretty long episodes, man. These are like usually internet
Yeah,
animators are like 3 minute, 4 minute like episodes, and you've got like what's your longest one? Like you have like a 30-minute one on here,
I
right?
think it's almost 30 minutes. I'm trying not to do that again by myself because
Oh,
the
you did
time
that
it
one
took was a
all by yourself?
long amount of time, but also just even past the whole like trying not to fall out of the algorithm and like
Yeah.
the sort of short memory of the internet. Like if you disappear on the internet for like longer than like 6 months, you might as well have like died and made a new channel. But just also when I make an episode this long, it's I don't get to explore as many ideas, and I have so many ideas I want to explore. So I think if I'm being realistic, avoiding these 30-minute episodes is probably a good idea for now until I have the resources to like have other people help me. But it was good to, stretch myself to my limits to find out where those limits are. I think from now on, I'm going to stick to about 10-minute episodes. But I think the way I'm able to accomplish this, because I notice even quite a lot of indie animators and people who make stuff solo aren't even able to reach this 10-minute mark. I don't think it's because I'm working more than them or working harder than them. It's just my style just happens to be very easy to achieve, and there's a lot of like reusing of assets, and especially because it's 3D animation,
Yeah.
it's a lot more streamlined than other stuff. So I'm lucky that this style that I happen to want is efficient, because I didn't come up with this style in order to be efficient. I think it's more like it was bred from the limitations of my like skills in animation and drawing and art and stuff. Sort
Yeah.
of like South Park, where they're not like traditional artists, and I didn't come from like an art or animation background, so I did what I could do, and yeah, in the long term, it's worked out as being something that's quick and easy, which is great because I have so many ideas I want to get through.
Yeah, that's great. When you're making these, it is like a really cool thing whenever I hear, because it's been kind of a common thing I've been noticing in a lot of these episodes where people say that their style kind of comes from a mix of their limitations, but that's like it's great when you're able to do like what you're doing here where you have limitations, but you like flip that so that it doesn't really look like when people are watching it, it's not like, oh, they're cutting corners. Like it feels like a very
Mm.
like it feels like it's very on purpose, the style you're going
Well,
for.
yeah, I think that's like sort of comes from being really entrenched in like anime. Like there was a period in my life, maybe like from the age of 14 to like 20, where like 95% of media I consumed, like on the visual storytelling side, was anime. So it's like what I grew up on, and
Yeah.
a big part of anime is not cutting corners. Well, yeah, cutting corners, but in a way where you're able to sort of maintain or even add to the visual, like excited how exciting stuff is. Like there's stuff that I can show you with the fight. I could pull something up now. Actually, let me. This like sort of background where it's like a
Yeah.
texture and it's sort of animated. This is like a super common thing in anime. You'll see it in like Dragon Ball as well. I've got another example in a fight scene of something similar to it. But yeah, these sort of like animated textures are a great way to create a vibe and a mood without having to create or well, in anime you'd have to draw the whole scene or paint the whole scene, which is like one thing, but even having to 3D model something is like it's really time consuming. And then we've got this like, let me just get rid of this little filter. So we've got this little like fight scene thing where he flies up from the bottom and then he like strikes towards the camera, but like these sort of like speed lines, this is like a
Yeah.
very anime inspired thing, and without them it looks kind of bad because I'm not
Yeah.
amazing at animating technically. But this kind of like is a way to cover up my lack of technical ability.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy
that's
how
like
much it
super
adds.
super anime inspired kind of thing. Um, but yeah, the anime inspiration in general is like a big part of like my work ethic and stuff like that. And I think in anime it comes from not just like budgetary or like constraints regarding skill, but like a general lack of time, like the whole 1 week production cycle of making anime episodes. And I guess that allows me to, in my own way, shorten it. Obviously, I can't make stuff in a week. But there's another thing like that as well, which I was like super inspired by, which is I don't know if you've seen the South Park documentary. I think it's called like
Yeah.
1 week to air or something like that. That
Yeah,
whole
7 days
like
to air, 1 week to air.
yeah, that whole idea of like being spontaneous and not like overthinking your ideas and not trying to make the perfect thing every time you create something, because if you do that, you're gonna like you're gonna stop the creation of so many other great ideas that could have been created in the time that you've taken to like make something like 5% better, and like
Right.
but it doubles the time of the production. And that's like an extreme example with South Park, but I think in general that's like a great way to approach creativity. And I think with animation in particular, it's such a drawn out creative process, especially for me coming from music, where I got to the point where I could make a song in like an hour or two. I could explore so many ideas in a day. um I think it's always important for me, in order to not go like completely insane, is to like be able to finish things like fast and yeah, just get the chance to explore more ideas in general.
Nice. Yeah, definitely the speed thing. I totally agree. That's like just trying not to make every little thing perfect. And thankfully now with Blender and so many other programs, like the animation process is speeding up, which is great. Because I'm the same way. Like I have like really bad ADD and stuff, and I'll just like
Hmm.
if something's taking too long, then it's like I take a super long break from it, and then it kind of ruins that flow.
Yeah, I just think with like that whole idea of like completing stuff in general is like, if not like the most important thing. Like I think a lot of people will like come to ask for advice about creativity and like getting started and stuff like that, and they'll get caught up in the weeds of things like what program do I use, or
Yeah.
where what YouTube tutorials do I watch. And I think the most important thing is just like figuring out a small thing you want to make and like completing it. And there's so much more you can learn about just having the goal of completing stuff instead of having the goal of like, I'm gonna become an animator or I'm gonna make a cartoon series. It's good to just start with like, oh, I'm gonna make this 5 second animation, and then once you learn to complete something, it'll just infinitely like layer on top of itself the more you complete things, until like before you notice it, you're doing what I've done and like made a 30-minute, almost 30-minute episode of a cartoon, which like if I even trace myself back like 3 years ago,
Hmm.
3.5 years ago, I was literally making like 5-second renders in Blender and like uploading them on TikTok, and like that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely have to start somewhere. Cool. So are you also like writing the scripts and everything for the Big Shot series?
Yeah.
And
I
what's
write the
some of your
scripts.
process with that? Because it's really good. Like I feel like the stories are like really fun and engaging, and the banter between characters.
Well, process is kind of hard. I think I write all the scripts, and this is the first like piece of fiction that I've ever written. Like before Big Shot, the only things I'd done like fiction wise is creating music videos that are like slightly narrative focused. So I guess my start was in like things that don't have dialogue, but Big Shot was the first time I wrote dialogue, and that was like a really scary thing for me. I think I stopped myself from doing it for a while because I thought that like I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
But process wise, with coming up with like ideas for the episode and then turning them into a script and stuff like that, it usually starts with me just being inspired by something random in life. So yeah, just like living life. I've never been able to come up with an episode idea by just sitting down and being like, I'm gonna make a new episode idea. And when I first started trying to create the show, I like set a day like once a week where I was like, this is going to be my writing day and I'm going to come up with a load of episode ideas. And that never worked out. It just wasn't.
Mm.
Some people it might work out for, but for me personally, I need to just like, it needs to like strike me like randomly. It's almost like I don't come up with the ideas. So yeah,
Right.
whenever like there's any sort of inkling of an idea, even if it's like not amazing, I'll write it down. And then when I need to sort of expound on something, I will come to this big list of ideas and choose which one makes sense the most in the grand scheme of things. And then from there, I used to storyboard and write script at the same time because I was more visually
Oh,
focused coming from making music videos. So if you like notice in the earlier episodes, there's a lot less like dialogue. There's more shots where there's no speaking. There'll be like some kind of landscape shot or like some like cool looking thing. And
yeah.
now I write the script first and then storyboard after. And you can probably notice that in the general amount of dialogue. Like the script for the 27-minute episode, I believe,
Yeah.
was originally like 60 pages, and I had to cut it down
Oh
to
wow.
around 30, I think, just because I was like really focusing a lot on dialogue.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, it's like general idea that comes to my head, and then turning that idea into a story. I think it's hard for me to really fully explain the process of turning just like what if this happened into a full script, because really it's just a lot of like the original question of like what if like this scenario happened to a character. It's just me sort of asking myself that over and over and over again as the script kind of expands, and it's a very natural process, and I think that comes from having a good idea of characters in your head. And when you have like a good idea of what your characters would do in different scenarios, and you sort of treat them like real people in real life, like I know what my characters would do in a specific situation, and I don't have to like think about what they would do. I don't have to like imagine their actions. It's sort of like imagining one of my friends being dropped into a scenario. I'll be like, oh yeah, I know they'd react this way just because
Yeah.
I like know them so well. So yeah, I think an important thing for being able to write character based stories in like a really natural way is having a really solid idea of who the characters are, and that might come from just being really particular about what you want each character to be like, or it might come from sort of certain characters being inspired by certain people in your life, certain things like AJ in Big Shot, for example, is really inspired by like a lot of my friends when I was like a teenager, and we were like having our little stoner era, and
Yeah.
Big Shot is sort of like inspired by a younger version of myself that's a bit more like jaded and apprehensive. And then Boss is really inspired by those sort of insecure masculine types, but
Yeah.
I've also tried to give him like a hint of humanity by like showing his more like soft side and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
characters, that's like a really important part. Like I think before you try and set out to create a story, you should create the characters. Like for me, this show started with me drawing Big Shot, and then it all came from that. I didn't have any idea what his personality would be like. I just knew what he would look like, and then that kind of like developed from there. And then after making a couple of the characters, I came up with the setting, and it all just like piles on top of each other, and it's a very natural thing. But also another important part about creating stuff naturally is to have like a really specific taste in what you're creating. So like yeah, I've always been like very specific about, I know like what I like when it comes to like cartoons and like anime and music and video games, to like an obnoxious extent where I just like, I really know what I like. And when you have like this very distinct taste of your own in the stuff you consume, that'll just automatically come out in the stuff that you create, and it'll be unique. So almost like making stuff for your own specific taste instead of trying to, you know, hit some weird zeitgeist or whatever. Because
Yeah.
all the best stuff comes from like almost like selfish creators trying to make stuff for them. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, you have a super unique style, and I think that's probably what's helped a lot with like your social medias and stuff growing. Because yeah, I think one of the first videos I saw of yours was one of the ones that you're like talking to the camera, like explaining your process,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, right away I was like, oh, this is cool. Like this is a really cool, like unique style that I hadn't seen before. Yeah, it definitely helps like when you can stand out a bit, especially in today's age, because there's like so many animators making things, and because of the internet, it's like you can just throw it out there. So we're
Mm-hmm.
kind of getting
Mm-hmm.
bombarded with stuff. So being able to stand out is definitely, yeah, a good thing to think about for other people that are trying to make a series.
I think also it's not like about being calculated about standing out and like avoiding things that
Hmm.
you think will be, that are already done or like popular. Because like I could have really been like, oh, my characters have like skinny legs, it looks too much like Adventure Time, or like
Right.
just
Yeah.
like a whole load of stuff. I don't think it's about trying to be unique, but if you just do what you like, then
Yeah.
it's like automatically unique, unless you're like a really boring person. But you shouldn't be worried, you shouldn't worry about that. Like when creating art, you should just like do what's
Yeah,
fun.
just what
Yeah.
interests you, what you're getting inspired from, and what you want to see in the world. So when you're making those, before you like started writing and stuff, like you already had all your characters for the series and kind of like
Mhm.
knew what their personalities were and how they would interact with each other. Cool. So
Yeah,
you like
and
really approached it like an actual series, because that's like
well,
what I feel like stuff on TV is and stuff.
I didn't have like a pitch document or anything like that, and like
Right.
I didn't have all the characters. Like I literally had like Boss, AJ, and Big Shot, and that was it. And I didn't have any idea of their sort of dynamic or like where I wanted them to go or like any sort of character arcs. I think that's like the beauty of like internet animation, is you don't need to have, yeah, like a pitch document to present to
Right.
some network to be like, this character is this, and like this demographic's going to relate to this character, and then this is going to happen, and then the series is going to end like this. Like I have vague ideas of where I want the show to go, but I don't like have a set out ending that I need to happen, and I don't feel the pressure to do that either. And
Yeah.
because this is my first show, I didn't want to overwhelm myself by setting setting that goal of like creating the show like a traditional cartoon. I thought like I would just use this show as a way to learn. Eventually in the future, if I want to sort of get funding in a way that's like not sort of like a vague like Patreon like fan funded
Yeah.
thing where they want to just fund me in general, and it would be like to create a show even for like a Kickstarter, like I'd have to have like a more concrete idea of like where things are gonna go. But for right now, I just want to like learn how
Yeah.
to make a show, and I'm not like in any way belittling the traditional form of pitching a show. And I think it's like an important skill to learn, and it's something I'm trying to learn at the moment. But yeah, it's a lot less high pressure, allows for exploration of more ideas, experimentation, and especially if you're like a young artist, I don't think you should be fully worrying about, you know, slotting into an industry that is arguably dying, or not dying, but
Yeah.
like not going to be here in the same
It's
form.
evolving, like,
Is
yeah,
it
fast.
Yeah, like even if we look at like I really wonder if shows like Studio Glitch shows, if they have like a, they obviously would have like a pitch document and stuff like that, but I wonder if like they know how like Amazing Digital Circus is going to end, like when they first made the pilot, or whether this is something that they have more freedom to explore, because I do know that it's like Netflix funded now and stuff like that, and there's a lot of
Mhm.
money behind it, so there's probably got to be like some sort of planning. But I think it's a lot more loose than getting a 12 episode contract with Adult Swim or something like that, where you need to
Right.
know like exactly what's going to happen.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, that I feel like that approach, the way you're doing it, is like the best possible way of like there's no better way to learn something than to just throw yourself into it, and you're literally like
Hmm.
not just learning, but then also uploading and like making your own show, like just like putting stuff out there, which is awesome. That's like the best thing to do, because that way you can like learn while also creating artwork and putting that out into the world at
Yeah,
the
I
same
mean, you've
time,
got
which I feel
to.
like usually people are kind of like balance, like when they're learning or practicing, like they're not putting stuff out in the world. They're just kind of
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
figuring things out and then waiting till they're like they feel good enough. So yeah, I think that's really a cool way to do it the way you're doing it, of like uploading, just like just doing it, and then after, I'm sure every episode you've like figured out all these other ways to do stuff to bring to the next episode.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started like learning, my first sort of like art form was like when I started playing bass guitar when I was like 13 or 14. And I set these like weird arbitrary rules for myself. Like, I'm not gonna allow myself to write my own music until I can play this song. I think I wanted to play NIB by Black Sabbath on bass before I let myself write a song. Just like this real, I don't know why. And like when you like reach these arbitrary goals, you still don't feel anywhere near like ready to then jump into the thing that you said you'd allow yourself to do. So it's best to kind of just like start it and be prepared to look stupid and like have regrets. It's like fine to regret things that you've made as long as you're not like hurting people. But
Yeah.
like even in my case with Big Shot and Friends, I made the first episodes. I made them in like a sort of phone format, like vertical.
Oh yeah.
Didn't have any sort of lip syncing. The mouths were just still, and there was just things about it which I really didn't like in retrospect. And the last time I released an episode 3 weeks ago now was a remake of that first episode in this like with all the new things that I've learned and like lip syncing. I sort of jigged around the story a little bit for things to make sense and set up things to happen in the future.
Yeah.
But it's the internet, and like I know everyone says the internet's permanent, but if you're just starting, then no one, it sounds mean, but no one cares what you're doing. So
Yeah.
you really, this is like the best time to make mistakes. Like I think the first episode of my show got the most views out of any episode, about like 50,000 views. But I removed it off the internet and I don't think anyone even saved it. So like
Yeah, yeah.
even at like this point where like it's not like viral, it's not like a crazy, it's like a decent amount of views, it's not like a
Yeah.
crazy amount of views, but like that's gone off the internet now. No one can like access that. And like I think people need to understand that they have more, there's more leeway to like just mess up on the internet, and you can just fly under the radar, no one's gonna notice. And maybe if you get famous down the line and some mega fans dig up this thing, it'll just be like a cool little funny thing that adds to your story. It's not something you need
But
to
yeah,
hide from
yeah, for
anyone.
sure. Yeah, I feel like there's plenty of like animators or just like creatives in the industry that once they like blow up and get a show or something, it's really awesome. I think it's cool when somebody digs that up and they're like, "Oh, this thing that they
Mm,
made like it," and then even if it looks like crap, it's still like, "Oh, it's so cool to see where they started, like what they were putting out, or like, it." I don't think it's ever a thing to like be ashamed of, other that you don't
mm-mm,
want people to see, because it just shows how much you've like evolved and how much you've been working, to get
mm-hmm.
to where you are by the
Yeah,
time
like
like the world notices you.
have you seen the original like regular show like pilot thing where they're like
Yeah,
working
what
in a gas station?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like I doubt the creator of regular show stands by that still. I don't stand maybe he does, but like I don't stand by anything I made when I was in university. But
yeah,
like I think that's like the coolest thing ever, like to me. But I guess when you know how much you've evolved as a person, it's kind of hard to go back and see stuff without just seeing all the ways you could have done it way better now.
right.
But I mean, that's just a part of improving and becoming a better version of yourself is sort of feeling disconnected from you in the past.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, just going back into some of your process. So after you write your scripts, you said you do storyboarding now afterwards. What's your
Hmm.
process when it comes to storyboarding? Are you like doing it on paper? Do you use a program?
I can pull up some boards now. So the I used to until last episode board on paper. This is the most organized paperboard that I ever did, where I actually sort of
Oh,
had a
these are like
grid setup going on.
scanned from a sketchbook.
Yeah, so like originally I would like just draw like random boxes all over the page and sort of draw lines. It was complete mess, absolutely indecipherable unless you were me, and even for me, like it was hard to decipher what was going on half the time.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I kind of just like sketch little scenes, have little arrows to imply movement. Um, this is like I guess the good thing about storyboarding for your working on your own is you don't have to communicate every single thing like you would in a professional environment when storyboarding stuff. Because storyboarding in a actual production pipeline is more about communicating every single idea on the page, whereas I just have to communicate the minimum amount to make me remember my original idea instead of having
Yeah.
to show everything to like an animator down the line. So yeah, I would just draw little scenes. Sometimes I wouldn't even draw the background. I'd just have like a character drawn, like this little part here. And then we've got like loads of little notes, like notes on motion, like AJ is pushing Big Shot's head down here, and then just little things characters will do while they're talking. Um, And then last episode, I decided that I would do some digital boards in, what is it, Storyboard Pro, I think. So I hate drawing on, I've got like a little graphics tablet with a screen and stuff, but I hate drawing digitally. But I was like, it's going to be so much more efficient if I just do it like this. And I kind of like that now I have this cool little
Yeah, this is the
storyboard sheet.
Storyboard Pro.
Yeah. And I use the, because I'm a little weeb, I use the anime storyboarding format. I don't fully use it, like I don't add the dialogue or the time codes or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started digitally storyboarding last episode, which kind of made things a lot faster and
Yeah.
a lot easier to decipher when I'm not looking at some like shitty scans that I've done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because this was a remake of the episode, I took a lot of screenshots from the episode as well when I didn't need to fully like remake a shot.
Right.
Mm. But yeah, at the moment I'm scripting the next episode and I'm excited to like fully storyboard digitally for the next one. Um yeah, but also regarding storyboarding, there was one fight scene. This fight scene, I didn't storyboard. Someone I know called Julius storyboarded it. So he
Oh,
kind
okay.
of like did like a whole animatic, which we've got here. And he's like an amazing storyboard artist. And I'm gonna get him to help with another sort of action scene in the next episode.
Oh, yeah,
This is
this is
stuff that I
great.
could never even like. I can't even wrap my head around this kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Action scenes are like so difficult, especially when you're messing with all the exaggerated angles.
Yeah, like I was like, I'm not gonna. I really needed to have like an action scene in this episode because it was like a video game, so you've got to have like a video game boss in the
Yeah,
episode. But I was like, how am I gonna do this? And then luckily he like came along and did the. I was like blown away when he did this. But yeah, I'm excited to see what he does. We're like halfway through working on a little chase scene for the next episode, so I'm excited to see how that goes. But yeah, my storyboarding process is kind of very amateurish. Um, very flat. There's not a lot of depth. Like if we look at oh no, it's gone now. If we look at this storyboard, you can see how like Julius implies so much depth in this scene. We've got the characters close to the camera, this guy far away. He can actually draw with perspective, which is like something I can't do. Like we've got this sword super close to the camera, and then the big
yeah,
thing is far. It's just like so much depth, and then we've got like my kind of let me find one. Got like my shots where it's kind of just like flat, which I guess adds to the show in a way and makes it like my thing. But
yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
there's
as far
always
as
like there's
storyboards
always a
go, I
level of
feel like these are pretty
insecurity.
detailed.
Yeah,
These
I
have
mean,
some.
I feel like my stuff is more like vignette. Um, it feels like stuff that you could like be like a computer wallpaper. Like it's very like almost like
Mm,
a painting, not on like the level of detail, but just like it's like something you could see in a frame. It's very flat,
yeah.
but
Do you have like any
yeah, that's
background
like my
in
style.
traditional art, like drawing?
No, I used to draw as a kid, um, and then when I was like 13 or 14, and I started playing music, I completely stopped drawing, and then um, started doing 3D stuff, um, just to make storyboard, no, to make visuals for my own music.
Okay.
This was maybe like 4 years ago, and then started posting them on TikTok. Posted like one TikTok where I was like joking about wanting to get hired by some like other musicians to make videos for them, and that TikTok like blew up, and I started getting like hired by a few people,
So
and I was really and someone asked me to make like a music video for them, and I'd never made a music video for anyone, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to, figure this out. And because when I
yeah,
was doing stuff for myself, I kind of just freestyled it and like messed about. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna actually have to like make a storyboard and yeah, figure this out. And luckily, I did film studies for like a couple of years in school, so I had like basic knowledge of very like basic principles, like framing, like rule of
yeah.
thirds and shot continuity and stuff like that. But I really don't have any education in any of this stuff, and it's all just it comes back to the whole thing I was saying about like taste. It's like about knowing and being very particular about what you like, and I'm like that with like visuals as well. Like with my all my favorite anime, it's stuff that looks like amazing. Like I can respect shows that don't look crazy good but have amazing stories and characters and music and stuff like that. But for me, like the visual aspect of stuff is very important. So even before like trying to make my own stuff, and even though there's like a lack of education, I've always thought a lot about this, and I don't
Hmm.
think education is very important. And the best way to learn to draw, and that's I'm not good at drawing, but even I know is to just draw over and over and over again. And although I feel insecure about my drawing ability, I know that if I really just like locked in with it, it would get there eventually. And the whole notion of like being a naturally good like illustrator is just this like made up thing that people say
Yeah,
to have an excuse to not
to
draw.
not be good. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, those storyboard. I was asking because this. I feel like those storyboards look pretty good. Like it looks like you have artistic talent when it comes to drawing, just based off those
Thank you.
storyboards. I've seen some way rougher storyboards than that because they like actually look like your characters.
mm,
Even with some of the ways that you draw, like the angle where his head's kind of it's kind of like an above angle. Cool. So it looks like you work with Do you work with like a team on some of the episodes, or is it
How
just?
so? Like when you say team, there's people
Well, I
that
was
voice
looking
act
because I
for
was looking at
me.
one of the like in the credits of the episode, it looked like
Hmm.
you had like some worked with other like character modelers, and like you were
This is
just
like,
saying that with the story with the that animatic that you just showed me, like you're working with other people.
well, it's very. I'm trying to branch out. I'd say like still like 98, 97% of the show is made by me, and I really don't want it to be like this. But like, so for example, like the character when I got like character model and character modeler in the credits, they just made the model of the 3D like evil boss character for the video game. And
Oh,
like
okay,
I get like when there's stuff that I really can't do, I try to get help with it, but it's like very small aspects. Like I think
got
there's
it.
and that's not to downplay it. Like I'm not like trying to say this to be like I did it, it was all me, but
Yeah.
I wish I could have more help. Like, but when you can't pay people, you can only ask them to help with small things. So like
Right.
someone who's helped me with like a few things is Snail War. They have like they make really good animations, but they did a couple like background posters for the show, and then there's one shot in the video game episode where like AJ holds his hands out, and it's like one of them gross like close up shots from SpongeBob.
Yeah.
And then like someone did a couple designs for some creatures, but the things I get the main help with, which I really don't do myself, is the voice acting and the music. Although I make music, like I've got a degree in music production, and like I'm arguably more qualified to make music than I am to do the animation in the show.
Yeah.
I'd really like to outsource the music just because of the style of music I create myself doesn't really match the show.
Okay.
But yeah, someone
Interesting.
who makes like a lot of the music for the show is Silas Rowe. They're so good. I think without their music, the show wouldn't feel anywhere near the same. And then yeah, we've got Nelson who helps out with the voice acting, and he was the sort of the person who made me realize that I could just like ask people to voice act in the show. I remember I was like, I just posted a post on my Instagram story before I made the show, and I was like,
Yeah.
anyone interested in like maybe trying out voice acting who hasn't voice acted before? I didn't want to approach actual voice actors because I was like, why would they want to like voice act for me for free?
Right.
But yeah, Nelson, who's like a really good voice actor who like is in the voice actor community and knows a lot of voice actors, was like, well, I can like help you like make a casting call and post it on my Twitter, and we'll see like if people want to be a part of it. And that got like a ton of responses, like too many to like even like it was like kind of overwhelming. It took me like 2 or 3 days to go through all the auditions and like figure out who I wanted. And from that I learned that um voice actors in particular, and it's not to downplay voice actors at all, it's a very low barrier to entry thing. So you just need a microphone and a voice and the desire to voice act, and
Yeah.
the pool of voice actors is it's very big, and for a lot of voice actors it's really hard for them to even get work in a show that's not paying, and a lot of voice actors are extremely appreciative of just being able to be part of something that they like. And I didn't know that. I thought they would be like, oh, why would I want to, give my services for free? And yeah, one of my like big goals with the show is to have enough like funding on like Patreon or whatever to be able to like actually pay the voice actors their rates, because they've done so
Yeah.
much like amazing work for the show. But yeah, if anyone is like, how do I get voice actors for my show? Just like post like a casting call somewhere, and they will come. They are
Oh yeah.
there.
Yeah.
They're
That's
always
been my
there. They do it for
experience
fun.
too. Yeah. People have
They
reached
just
out
like
to
do
me.
it for like a hobby. It's not like it's not work to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you really don't want to feel bad, hire people that don't do any voice acting. There's a lot of people that have reached out to me that like do completely different things, and they're like, "Hey, let me know if you ever need a voice. I like would love to just do a voice for fun." Like
Well, some people
people
like
just
who
like
don't voice
people
act
want to
have
see themselves
amazing
animated, you
voices.
know?
Yeah, some people like who don't voice act also. It's not like playing an instrument like where you have to learn these things that are really unnatural. Like some
Right.
people who've never voice acted before, like Fully Cooley in the background. I think a lot of the voice actors in the show were either non-voice actors or like live action actors, and it's like some of the coolest like most different voice acting I've heard in any anime, and you can like feel it. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. Even like stuff like Smiling Friends is just like the animators voicing the stuff. Like
Yeah.
anyone can voice act as long as you have like an idea of what's going on in the show. I think it's a very natural thing to do, but that's not to say that it's easy. It's you've got to have a talent for it still. Yeah, anyone has a voice can voice act.
I feel like now's a good time to go into some of your like your working files if you want to show some of your maybe a few shots of kind of your
Yeah.
process when it comes to like laying out a shot.
So, my number one rule when it comes to laying out shots is it doesn't matter what it looks like. It's like not from the camera view. Sorry, I could have like worded that more succinctly, but the only thing that matters is what the camera sees.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of in 3D space. It's not the same as creating a video game. It only needs to look good from one angle, so you can do a lot of stupid stuff. Like for example, this scene.
Yeah.
We just got Big Shot standing here. He's just floating in space. The sky is actually not a skybox. It's just this flat plane. And same for all these hills. They're just flat. They're not even real. This is kind of like a Truman Show kind of setup, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, just creating the illusion of depth and space, and it's almost like a stage play, really, where you just need to look good from the audience's point of view.
Yeah.
It makes it so you can. I think especially with stuff like mine, where I'm almost trying to mimic a 2D style, it allows me to do weird perspective tricks that wouldn't work if I was trying to be true to 3D space. Similarly with this shot of AJ doing a little front flip with the sword, if we look at it from like this side view, we can see he comes up and then he kind of just like awkwardly floats in space here for a while, and it's not like a very natural movement. He looks weird from any angle apart from the camera.
Right.
Like as you can see from the camera, it looks like his like legs are like split, but from here he's got his feet are like super close together.
Yeah, that's so
Using a
funny
lot
with
of
this.
sort of low focal length cameras, you can do like crazy stuff like this, where it creates this like really extreme perspective effect. And then anything that's not on the camera, it doesn't matter what it's doing. That's like I've been watching a lot of videos of behind the scenes of the Amazing Digital Circus, which is also
Yeah.
3D animated, and it's a lot of like funny stuff. I think I saw one where one of the character actors, animators, was showing the way they did like expressions for Jax and how he was like just morphing the 3D model in this weird way that only looked good from the character from the camera view. And yeah, it's something you don't need to be like a perfectionist about. And I always think like people ask me to make video games a lot, and I'm scared that if someone asks me to help them with a video game, that I will just be doing like stupid stuff like this off instinct, because I've learned that I can get
Right.
away with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about that, but yeah, for video games, I guess you can't get away with that, right? It's got to be like it's got to look pretty good from every angle.
No, yeah, exactly. And like, so we've got like something like this shot. If the textures load, yeah, while the textures load, we've got like this shot of news reporter in front of the store. We've got our guy sitting on the store, and it's meant to look like it's on like a hill, but we've just kind of just got this weird little flat plane. There's nothing to the left, nothing to the right, and yeah, we don't need to think about any of that stuff. Like this thing's backwards. I don't know why this thing is like this. I do a lot of kind of embarrassing stuff that I would clean up if I was working with other people. Yeah, we've even got like Big Shot off camera here for no reason.
Yeah,
this is
kind of
like
nice
a very
thing about
inefficient way of
just
working.
by yourself, right? You can just you don't need to keep everything super clean and organized.
Yeah, I mean,
when
if you
it's
look
just
at my object outliner, it's equally as embarrassing. We've got some collections that don't even have anything in it.
Yeah.
Nothing is named correctly. We've just got like cube 234. Yeah, it's embarrassing. But yeah, you don't need to worry too much. Don't overthink things. This is like all these like naming conventions and being neat and stuff. It does help you be more efficient with stuff. I will admit that, but don't overthink things. It's
Yeah.
just about having fun.
Oh, what are you doing to
I'm trying
achieve
to think of
like
what else I can show you that kind of
your
goes along with this.
yeah, do
Oh
you
yeah,
have like a technique to achieve your like flat color aesthetic?
oh yeah, I can show you that actually. Let me load a new scene up just for this is like another example of like not showing things that aren't off camera, or only showing things that are on camera. Is like there is no like version of the store where it's like a full character model of the store. I have the
Mm.
behind the counter scene, and then I'll have sort of like a side view and then a view of the door. Um, but yeah, if this loads, then I can show you. Let me just do it from the start because this is kind of messy. What I usually do is start with the old Principal BSDF, which is just like a regular 3D kind of thingy. This is just like the
Yeah.
basic shader in Blender, like to have an emission. So this doesn't work at the moment, but we're gonna run it into a couple of things. This is just like a really basic toon shader. So we run this into a shader to RGB node, which converts the shader information into just color data. And then we run that into a color ramp. So this can we can just change the color of the color ramp, but it's
Yeah.
still got this sort of like faded version. And then the way to make it like a toon shader is to set the interpolation mode from linear to constant. And then we've got this like harsh shadow effect.
Right.
And then these are the colors that I usually use for Big Shot. And then the cool thing about this is since you got freedom between the dark and the light, you can sort of create these extreme effects. So like at nighttime, I like to set Big Shot's color. I set his shadow to like a slightly more purple version of him. And then say I wanted him to look like he was like in some like bright sunlight, we can kind of like raise the highlighted version but
Yeah.
keep the shadow the same, so you got a lot more freedom basically. And then also I like to not for Big Shot in particular, but sometimes I like to see I'll get the highlight color like this, and then I'll get the shadow color and I'll just pick the highlight color, and you could just drag the brightness of it down to create the
Yeah.
shadow. But I also like to, this is just like basic color theory, I guess, but I also like to change the hue of it as well. So you can kind of like make that slightly more pink, and then it
Yeah.
adds depth to the color. This like makes him look more like fleshy, like the more pink I make it. But yeah, it gives you a lot more freedom. You'd think that it would be limiting when you limit yourself to having only two colors. But when you don't limit yourself to the very strict, almost super realistic parameters that working in 3D puts you in, it allows you to play about and do cool things. And I learned this not from 3D, but from music. I remember one of my teachers when I was learning music production said that when you're working in like a digital space, it's really important to sort of introduce little weird imperfections in order to stray from the really rigid perfection and sort of like simulation that digital art creates, and like just like playing with the colors a bit is a way to do it. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I do a similar thing when adding shadows to my characters, even in 2D. Is like, yeah, I always like to bump the change the hue and then bump the saturation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I feel like it. I don't know. It just looks more like aesthetically pleasing too. So it's those little tricks that you start picking up along the way.
Yeah, I guess I can show you how I make some of my more textured stuff as well. Like for example, this little mic boom arm. It's really this
Yeah,
looks like complicated if you're not like a Blender dude, but this is just a lot of noise textures. So this mix color node is really important. Kind of just allows it's like blending two things in Photoshop. So like it'll start off like this, it's just a regular toon shader, and then let's get rid of this for now just so we don't add any confusion. So if I crank this up now, we're getting this
yeah,
noise texture, which I'm just running through a similar color ramp, and then we can change the amount here. You can change the color. And then when it gets cool is when you start mixing different noise textures. You can also use like Voronoi textures, which is a slightly like more blobby version of a noise texture in the most simple way. You can play about with the scale of a noise texture. You play about with the detail, and yeah, it's really just like I think personally, like once you kind of figure out different ways things do stuff, which I figured
Yeah.
out purely from experimentation. Like I'm not. I guess there's a lot of math involved in all this stuff. Like we've got like texture coordinates and noise textures are inherently like a mathematic thing. We've got like 1D, 2D, 4D. We've got all these weird things, like especially if we go into like Voronoi textures. We've got like Euclidean, Manhattan, all this stuff that I don't know what it means, but I know what it looks like. Like
Right.
I know there's like mathematical concepts behind this, but it's just more about like experimenting and like letting your brain like intuitively learn what like each crazy weird setting does, and just like having fun with it. And you'll learn to like along the line make more like complicated stuff. Like this wood texture is, although it looks like something that you could kind of like draw, like a yeah, like a drawn texture. This is actually just, if I can select it, this is just a noise texture ran into a Voronoi texture, which is sort of like two different textures manipulating themselves. So
Oh, okay.
this is like a Voronoi texture, which is just like little dots and stuff. But then when you run the noise texture into it, it distorts the Voronoi, which happens to create a wood effect. And you wouldn't like learn that unless you kind of just like stumbled upon it by accident. But you can like infinitely run textures into other textures, and
And see what they come up with.
create
Oh yeah,
create
that's
crazy
cool.
stuff.
So you didn't like look up a
And
tutorial
yeah,
or anything for the wood? You kind of just figured that one out by messing around?
yeah, I think I just found it by accident. There's definitely, if you got like something really, I probably should have like looked it up online. Like for very specific things, it's good to like look up. But I think when you're trying to be stylized, it's
Yeah.
good to figure it out yourself. Especially with like, I think the problem with Blender tutorials is they're very focused on like hyper realistic stuff. So if I did look up like a wood texture thing, it would be like extremely detailed. It would have like bump maps and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's like a benefit of like experimenting. Like we've got this like little metal texture I made, which is literally just like a noise texture. Um, and then I like to do like a lot for my sort of plant textures. I like to just run little Voronoi textures and then play about with the colors, overlaying like browns and greens and stuff. Yeah, it's just a lot of like layering stuff on top of each other until you find what works for you. There's not like
Yeah.
it's more simple than it seems. Nodes are scary, and I still never do any geometry node stuff. That is like terrifying to me. But I know that if I needed to, I could probably just learn it the same way. I'm being lazy, and I'm scared. I'm not this like crazy brave artist who is like exploring unknown waters with ease. Like I get scared of this stuff as well, and I
Yeah.
understand. Even Blender as a program, like if you go to like the like what is this? This is just like a crazy like
Yeah, I don't mess with any of
I
that
don't know what
stuff.
this is. So we just like everyone's scared to a certain extent.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I noticed like for some of your shots you've done like you kind of switch it up to more like pixelated, kind of like video gamey effects and stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know if you had anything to show kind of your approach when it comes
Um.
to doing that.
So I was originally like these shots for this whole episode, the whole video game world was actually going to be pixelated, but there was like a lot of
Mm.
details that weren't getting across. I used to remember a way that I would add the pixel effect, but then I was in a Discord server like years ago, and someone just shared this node thing that I don't even think you can like down. It was like something that some dude made,
Oh,
and then I
really?
kind of just like run it into this, and
Oh,
then
no way. You just slap it in.
when I render it, it's like pixelated. But I think there are like stuff you can get on like Gumroad now for free that like do the exact same thing as this. But this like the higher up I run it, the more
Oh, that's cool.
pixelated it gets.
Damn, can you send that to me? I
I can actually,
usually
yeah.
I've done stuff like similar when messing around with Blender because yeah I'm also on that trend that I just love that like uh old Nintendo or like PlayStation aesthetic that people have been doing with their
Yeah,
animations.
yeah, that was how I got started on Blender. it's a good way to learn the fundamentals of 3D animation, like really good way. But I got started because I was just making these little like N64s visuals. There was a whole like wave a couple years ago. Remember like there was like the OGs for me are World for Jack and Nammak, or I think his Instagram's like Lord Stingray, and we've got like Alec FPX, um, Chatch as well, CH4CH. These like people like really inspired me when I first started like picking up
Okay.
Blender, and like now there's like a lot of tutorials on how to do it, but back then I sort of had to just like study their videos and like rewind them back and forth. There was one in particular which was the video that Nammak did for Blade's Reality Surf. Let me get that up. Yeah, this video is like big inspiration for me. And I was like studying stuff in this and trying to figure out how it was done, like this grass and
Yeah.
just like very basic stuff. But there was no like, now there's like tutorials where it's like how to make PS2 graphics in Blender, and they're so cool. But I remember I had to just kind of like figure it out on my own, which was fun. I think I learned a lot from that. But if you go back and like look at my stuff, you can see places where I was like straight ripping people off. And there's kids now on like Instagram that are like doing the same thing, and it's cool and all. But I think that whole like low poly pixelated like Blender thing got like really infested with a lot of kids who were like just straight ripping people
Yeah.
off. Which I mean, it's fine. Like it's just like it's just for fun. But I think we need to put some respect on the OG's names. And I've probably
Oh,
forgotten the
for
names of
sure.
some people. I don't want
Yeah.
to like. I don't want
Yeah, I'll have
people
to
to
look
think
up
that
some of
I'm
those guys.
forgetting some of them. But yeah, because I was doing the same thing. I was ripping these people off, and I think it got me started and got me inspired.
Well, that's kind of like the way you do it, right? With any artwork, you're kind of like always ripping people off
Hmm.
at the beginning, and then naturally you just kind of come up with like you pick the pieces that you like from each artist, and then you come up with your own style.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I think what always made me really like that style, the of the video gaming style, was that just growing up in like the early 2000s and like playing video games, I always loved the like watching cutscenes in video games.
Mm,
And even just like when they were kind of like yeah bad graphics, it was just like I just liked the way it looked. So then now that people have been going back to that and coming up with how to like remake that, I think it just kind of gives me some nostalgia, but then also at the same time it's like oh like yeah, I always thought when I was a kid like it would be cool to see a full TV show or a full movie in this look, but it was never
yeah.
like that. That was just for like the cutscenes in video games because they had such limitations. But yeah, I think that's what I like about it.
Yeah, it's such a cool style, and like even past the nostalgia of it, I think it like stands on its own. And I think that's a reason why it's stuck around and it's not been sort of like, I mean, I did say like there was a trend of like Instagram artists doing this kind of thing, but I think the people who are like still doing it and the people who like started off doing it like are still doing it in the same style, because there's like it's like past like being like a fad or a trend for them, and it's just a genuine like the way that they express their own visual identity. And I think that like speaks to how it's cool. Yeah, past the point of nostalgia. And I think it's gonna stick around and sort of become its own thing. Much like how lo-fi in quotation marks music and I guess like an example is like lo-fi hip hop as a genre,
Mm-hmm.
which is like it's a real like umbrella term now, and I don't think it like truly represents a lot of the music that people put it and like say is lo-fi hip hop. But like this thing which started as like a way to call back to old times and sort of breed nostalgia has become its own thing that some people forget is actually a callback to stuff. And I think that might be the case. I mean, you see that with video games now. There's a lot of like video games that are coming out, indie games in particular, that are based on old styles. But it's almost like they've transcended this idea. I guess one like example of when like I can feel like it started was like Shovel Knight. Like I think like the whole marketing around that was like, oh, this like looks like an old game, but it's actually a new game. But now we've got things like I don't know, like Celeste and like Katana Zero, where
Yeah.
there's definitely an element of calling back to old games, but it's not like you almost forget that they're doing that because it's not like the main focus. It's just like its own visual style, and it's cool seeing people do that with 3D stuff now. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head because I don't have time to play video games now. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, that game Peak that came out recently. That one has
yeah,
like, yeah, it's just apparently they made that game in like a month. They just like
in a
threw,
month.
yeah, apparently
Whoa.
that team, like, I think they had already made like another game that took them
Mm,
much longer, but then they used like everything that they learned from that, and they were just like, I think it was like I watched some interview or something that they were saying that it was just like an exercise for them because they were getting burnt out, and they were like talk to some other game developers, and they're like, just make something in a month, just see what you guys can throw together and like limit yourself to that. And they made Peak, and then they put it out, and it just like blew up. Like,
mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's crazy when you kind of like put that limitation, kind of going back on what we were saying of like try not to be like have perfection, give yourself an end date, and just like whatever you get done by then, put it out, and you never know. With AAA games and stuff, like things are just getting less fun, and now people are turning around
Mm-hmm.
and being like, we don't really care about how shiny your graphics are. If the game, like, we just want a fun game, and that's kind of like where this whole, yeah, kind of going back to like old school graphics because it's faster to make. As long as the game's fun, it's fun, and people are gonna play it.
Yeah. Well, like, yeah, it's that whole thing of like limitation breeds creativity, but I think there's like the other end of it is like having too many options is like really overwhelming and isn't good. But it's called like option paralysis, I guess. I
Yeah.
found that with music, like over the time, like producing music, I started to get more and more like plugins, all these like sounds, all these synthesizers. I had a lot of music equipment at one point, and then I was like, just like I'd go to make music and I'd be like, I don't even know like what to use. There's like so much stuff here. So I like uninstalled like a load of stuff, just kept like the basics, and I felt it's so much easier because I wasn't spending all my energy on making decisions that are overall kind of inconsequential. Because I get there's that whole like psychological concept that humans can only make like a limited, like a certain number of informed decisions per day, and once you get past that level, then your decisions start getting worse.
Mm.
And yeah, I think that's why having too many options where they don't matter just makes creativity harder. I think there was something I remember David Lynch saying in an interview about how he has the same routine every day, probably out of a sort of like weird obsessive compulsive thing. But the way he justified it, which I thought was really interesting, was that if he doesn't need to make a decision of what he's going to eat for breakfast every day and he doesn't have to decide when he's going to go out and smoke a cigarette, then those decisions can then be made on his creative endeavors instead. And I don't know how much credence there is to that, but I like to think that that's like a cool thing. And I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think routine is a, at least for me as an artist, is a good thing to settle into when I'm, at least for when I'm like really into the process of making stuff. I think breaking routine is another important thing for like getting into that more almost like manic state of creativity where like ideas are just like hitting me. But when I'm like trying to execute an idea, I need all my decisions to be spent on executing that idea. And I will
Right.
just eat the same food every day, wake up around the same time every day. And yeah, I think it helps. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think it definitely does. I mean, especially just having, yeah, some type of routine. I feel like when I have more, just even when I have more stuff going on in my schedule, I feel like I'm more productive overall, right? Rather than if I have like a week where I have like no
Mm,
meetings, no anything to really do, no projects I'm being hired to do. I feel like I end up letting a lot of things fall to the wayside. But if I
hmm.
have like multiple meetings, I'm working on a project, then like I feel like I have a higher chance of once I'm done doing those things to then work on one of like my own personal projects and stuff.
Yeah,
It's just kind of
I
like you
think
have
it's
this
also
ball
like
rolling
a
that like keeps the momentum going.
I think that's also like a like different people are different. I think this is like a I agree with you. I feel the same way. I think it's probably like an ADHD sort of personality trait where some people work better when they're just like laser focused on one thing. But I think people like us probably work better when we're juggling the as many balls as possible, just about to drop all the balls. But like that's when it's like you really lock in and it just hits that perfect zone.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Cool. I know you were talking about earlier some of your inspirations when it comes to like the video game aesthetic. Do you have any other inspirations just overall when whether it could be musicians or other artists, animators?
Super inspired by my favorite director of all time is Masaaki Yuasa. He did Ping Pong the Animation, Mind
Mm.
Game, Blue Over the Wall. He's like he did an episode of Adventure Time as well. He's like super colorful, crazy, like weird characters, insane animation. I remember reading his Wikipedia page, and he talked about how he really like was insecure about his drawing for a while, and that he didn't think he could become an animator, and it kind of just like snowballed for him, and his style is so unique, and
Yeah.
I just like his stuff a lot, and he's one of those like unicorns of animation who is like himself. Just like work ethic wise, I'm like obviously inspired by Hayao Miyazaki. I think sometimes I idolize him to an unhealthy point where I allow myself to fall down his like scary, unhealthy paths of being obsessive and
Yeah.
not being a human. But I guess I also can learn from his downfalls. Like I said, also David Lynch, super inspirational. Like Twin Peaks, like one of my favorite things of all time. If we're going into like specific anime, FLCL, Fooly Cooly, amazing. The way they integrate the soundtrack, the Pillows soundtrack into that is
Yeah.
like crazy good. Space Dandy, also amazing. I like how it is able to explore so many different unique ideas with all the different episode directors, all the different planets. It's like just such a cool concept. Like Shinichiro Watanabe in general is amazing. The Simpsons, which is kind of weird. I don't think it comes through in my work much, apart from like
Yeah.
having the weird colored characters. I think The Simpsons seasons 1 to 10 are like the perfect media. I don't think like anything touches it, especially like animation wise. I think the writing is like insanely good, and I've watched all of that like 3 or 4 times over, and it's still amazing. What else? South Park. I was like a South Park kid,
Yeah.
and on that same note, Newgrounds as a website, early Newgrounds stuff. Although when I go back and watch it, it doesn't like hit in the same way, but just that like energy that was going on in that time of the internet. And
Yeah.
we still have like artists from Newgrounds that are like making like really cool stuff now. Obviously, like super inspired by Zach Hadel and Michael Cusack, like
Yeah.
Smiling Friends. Super inspired by Speedo Sausage, who is doing Punch Punch Forever.
Oh,
I think that's really
yeah.
cool.
I think I've heard of that.
And then I'll stop listing after this, but also
No, no, no.
really, really, really like that new Studio Glitch show, Gaslight District. I think that's like
Oh, yeah, I
one
saw
of the
the
most
pilot for that
interesting.
one.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the most interesting things going on right now in animation.
Yeah, Studio Glitch is really pushing the boundaries, I think, a bit. I just feel like there's so many studios and or just like animators kind of like turning the industry on its head now. And it's like we're in this like
Mm-hmm.
part where this time where it's like things seem like they're falling apart, but then there's studios like that are just coming out of the woodworks, and then it's like blowing up. And now, yeah, like you were saying, like they're working with Netflix now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now it's like I think we're gonna see more of that hopefully with just like big studios like funding these other animators and studios.
Yeah, I think personally, I'm like super optimistic for animation, but I think that's just because of the perspective that I'm coming from. I think it's a scary, bleak place for people who are like very specifically skilled in certain things, like people who are just storyboard artists or like just animators. I'm not saying just to be like, oh, you only do this. Like I couldn't do all this, but it's like I think those people are like the backbone of it, and like having people who dedicate their lives to one part of this craft that takes all these other things is like amazing, and the most like crazy thing to me that you like can trust these other people around you to
Yeah.
to help you do stuff. But yeah, I think for like people like me who like make stuff by themselves and like independent creators, it's like the best it's ever been, arguably. Yeah, yeah.
Definitely like the accessibility to programs and stuff is better than it's ever been. Even like the last 5 years, I feel like there's been more and more cheaper or even free programs that people can use.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I had to like pirate Adobe Flash, and back in the day, Adobe Flash is still kind of what's it, Adobe Animate now, but like
Adobe Animate.
yeah, like back in the day, like pirating Macromedia Flash, and it's like the worst program ever, and just crashes all the time, and like Blender is like a blessing to humanity,
Yeah, it
even for
really
2D
is.
stuff.
Yeah, now they're like really trying to push the 2D stuff, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
I've messed with it a little bit, but I haven't made like a full 2D thing within Blender yet. But I've definitely have friends that have, and yeah, I think it's really cool to use like 3D backgrounds and then just do 2D characters on top. Like I want to try to get more into that because it looks cool, and also I hate drawing backgrounds. I just like despise it.
Yeah.
So like if I can just build a set and then use that all the time, then that would be ideal.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there any other programs besides Blender that you use?
Pipeline is mostly Blender. You can do like everything. You can even like edit your videos in Blender if you want. So yeah, mostly Blender, and then do the finishing. I used to render every shot out and then throw them in Premiere and then cut it there. I cut stuff up in Blender now, so like I only use Premiere for like the finishing touches, like if there's like a transition or something like that, or like some kind of like text thing. But even then, like yeah, animation, compositing, basic editing done in Blender, and then Premiere for the finishing touches like captions, transitions. I do all my audio work in Logic on my MacBook, which is like, it's so old now. It's like 2017 MacBook. I need to maybe I don't have any reason to have a MacBook apart from Logic, but that's like the audio program that I learned on, and it's the one that
okay,
my brain works best on. So I do all the audio and that, and yeah, apart from that, I guess I've been using Storyboard Pro. I write my script in this script thing called Scrivener, which like helps format and stuff like automatically, because
oh really?
I don't know how
I
to
don't think I've
format
heard of that.
scripts.
Scrivener?
Scrivener, so SCRIVENER. Yeah, it's just like a script writing program, but instead of having to like format it in like Microsoft Word or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, very like small amount of programs used in my pipeline.
And then I know you're saying that you don't actually score your own animations. You have other people that are doing that. Is that like after the full animation's done, you send it off to them to score it, or do you already have an idea of like what the music's going to be for each episode?
I think I do my music in a really weird way where I just ask people to send me music, and I just have a giant folder of music, and then the music it comes last after everything. I'm never really thinking about me. I'm thinking about like the vibe of a shot, but I'm never like, I need a song that sounds like this in this scene. I'll just be like, it's like I know what the vibe of the shot is, so when I come to select music, it's very natural for me. I think it just comes from like knowing a lot about music. So yeah, I just have a big folder, throw stuff together. It's like the most fun part, I think, about the editing is I get to watch all these scenes and try them with different songs, and it changes the vibe so much. Yeah, it reminds me of this one, like when I did film studies in school, we had this one class where they were like, pick a scene from a movie and then pick a song that'll like completely change the vibe of the scene. And I remember picking the sun, that like the first scene of 2001: A Space Odyssey where the sun is it the first scene? It's where like the sun is rising over the earth or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
and like usually it's that like big orchestra like duh, duh, duh.
Yeah.
But I changed it to Something by the Beatles, and it like made it feel like so much different. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know like music had this much of an impact. I guess it's like
Yeah.
a basic thing to say, but like music is like, it feels like a really manipulative part of filmmaking where you can just completely like change the vibe of stuff. It's the most fun part for me, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. You can almost just like make a comedy into like a horror movie just by changing the background music and stuff.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Usually when I end these off, I always like to ask people about when it comes to like creative block, and when you're just like struggling to come up with an idea at any stage of the
Hmm.
process. What are things you do outside of animation, or it could be inside of animation, just like get past that?
I like to rant about this a lot because I feel like I've got to a point in my life where I've been super creatively blocked and sort of, I don't think I've felt like art block or anything like that for like years at this point. And one book that maybe you've heard about this before. It's this book called The Artist's Way.
Mm-hmm.
It's by someone, maybe funny author. The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. If you're ever like art block, just read this book. It's like a 12-week course. And it has a lot of activities to do, and it may sound like bullshit, but just like do it. Ever since I read that book and like did this course of different things, teaching you like different ways of thinking about stuff, I've never had art block. And it sounds like I'm
Really?
like introducing people to like a cult right now, but it's just like really healthy ways about thinking about art.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that the book asks you to do is every morning, I don't do this anymore, but it was just like a great practice for when I did it. I think I did this for about a year or two. Is every morning you take like a notepad, like an A4 notepad, and write 3 pages of just like whatever comes to your head. It doesn't have to be anything. It could just be like absolute nonsense. But this like practice is like a great way to like learn how to just like spit ideas out of your head. But there's a lot of just approaches to art in general and like different ways of thinking about creating art that this book is like just like completely like flipped in my head. It like just completely changed the way I approach art in general. But if you're lazy and you don't want to read the book, that's fine. I will tell you that it will literally change your life and never give you art block again. And this sounds like I'm like, I don't make any money from this. It sounds like I'm selling you like the miracle pill, but I will, it's just so good. But if you don't want to do that, then great ways to stop this sort of like idea of art block is first of not thinking about creativity as a way, as like an action that you do. It's just something that like occurs to you. And maybe if you experienced my life, you would say you actually do have art block because like this happened to you or this happened. But to me, it's not like art block. Like if I sit down and I'm like, I'm going to come up with an idea for an episode, and an idea for an episode doesn't come, I don't like consider that art block, because I don't view art like being blocked in art as me not being able to always come up with ideas on command, because I don't think that's how creativity works. But yeah, just like living life is really important. Like art in general is about expressing you as a person and the way you view the world and just everything about you. But if you don't live life and you're not a person past being an artist, then how are you ever going to expect to have things to make art about? And I was like this for a while. Like I would just like stay in my room, only make music all day, not see my friends, like not go and explore, do new things and live life. And I was like, why do I have like no topics to write songs about?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got to like actually have things to write about and like live life, and that's like definitely the most important part. Also, have hobbies. Like don't, back when my only sort of hobby was making art, when I didn't have the creative energy there to make something, it made me feel really bad about myself. And I don't think you can create art, like it's not easy to create art when you feel bad. So when you're like one thing that your whole self-esteem rides on, making art, you're not able to do it, you feel like bad about yourself, which then snowballs and you can't make more art because you feel bad, and then you feel bad because you can't make art. So yeah, like find a hobby, maybe like, I don't know, like learn like martial arts is fun, like rock climbing, like stuff that where you use your
Yeah.
body is really important when you don't have to like think, where you can just like, because
Yeah, it gets you out of your head.
your yeah, I mean, like your brain is part of your body, and if you're only training the thinking part of your brain and not the whole body as a whole, then you're kind of like missing a big part of it. Yeah, get a hobby that doesn't have anything to do with creativity. I think that's important. And hang out with friends. Like, if you don't have any friends, go like meet new people. It's
Yeah.
scary, but I mean, I wouldn't be able to write characters if I didn't go out and meet people that inspired these characters. Yeah, live life. Do like go outside, like your parents would tell you when you spend all your time playing video games inside. Go touch grass. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. No, I totally 100% agree on that. Living life is the best way to get those creative juices flowing.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Is there anything else you want to add before we close it out?
Yeah, just like anyone listening, like make stuff even if you don't want to or you're scared. It will make your life considerably better. And no one is not a creative kind of person. Everyone has creativity in them, even if you don't think you do. Just do it. It will make your life better, even if you don't show it to anyone. There's stuff in you that needs to be expressed in some way. So just go out and make something like now, right now.
Awesome, man. And where can people find you for anybody who's not familiar with your work?
Find me on YouTube if you just search Podge, Big Shot and Friends. There's also Big Shot and Friends on Patreon, patreon.com/Big Shot and Friends. Podge on Instagram, on TikTok. You'll be able to find me if you just search Podge. Probably you'll see my face. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, man. I want to thank all my listeners for tuning in to another episode of And I Made It. And thank you to Podge for coming on this episode. Really awesome chatting with you, dude. Love all the content you're putting out, all the reels that you've been making, and of course, Big Shot and Friends. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, I highly encourage you to go check it out. He's got a bunch of episodes out already. Thank you to my buddy Nick Hasselop for letting me use your music for the intros and outros to these episodes. Go check him out on Spotify if you guys haven't yet. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next episode with another animator.